Thank you for being here. I'm really excited to share with you one of my favorite apps. I've used this app for, gosh, it's been around for 12 years, I think, and I've been using it that whole time. It started out as Distressed FX, and it was a very basic app. In fact, there's still an app out on the internet or out on the App Store called Distressed FX. But the one we're going to be talking about tonight is the one that was updated in 2019 originally. And it was changed to Distressed FX Plus, and they added a host of new features. That's the one we'll be talking about tonight. And then it was recently updated again in June of this year, and brought it to where it is today. This is going to be recorded. I will record what we're doing tonight, and then within 2 days, you'll get an email from Zoom with a link to the recording and a link to these slides. And the slides, you'll have the content in the slides, but mainly you'll have some hot links. So there are links to different things. Like over here, I've got my contact info. I hope you'll email me if you have any questions about what we cover tonight. I hope you'll check out my website. I just got a website this past year by a company called SlickPick, and it's a really cool website. If you're a professional, it has lots of features that you can use to run your business. And if you're just an enthusiast wanting to share your pictures and display them in a beautiful way, it's great. So I hope you check it out. If you haven't signed up for my newsletter already, I hope you will. I'd like to get a newsletter out about once a month, and that's where I share things that are new, things that I've learned, projects I'm working on, trips I'm doing, all that kind of thing. So I hope you'll check that out. And then look at my workshop schedule. I've got workshops coming up, a couple yet this year with some cancellations, and then things for next year will be out there soon. You can find my images on Instagram and Facebook. So we would not have this app at all if it wasn't for Cheryl Tarrant. Sadly, Cheryl died in October of 2023. I never had the opportunity to meet her in person, but we did know each other virtually and talked often. I had the opportunity to interview her in 2021. I was really interested in what her inspiration for this app was, and I learned a lot about her. She's a wonderful artist, and very creative and inspired to create this tool for us so that we could extend our creativity. You can read that interview that I did with her in 2021 here. So I encourage you to do that. It's just really fun to kind of feel like you get to know her. It's so sad that she's no longer with us. But we owe a debt of gratitude to her co-collaborator, Steve, who is keeping the app alive. He has done all the programming for it. And so thank you, Steve, for that. So Distress F Plus, it's available in the App Store. It costs $19.99. It's a one-time cost, no subscription, no renewal fees. And it includes 19 different packs of textures and gels. And there is, as I mentioned, there is another app called Distressed FX. It's by the same group, but it's a very trimmed down app. It doesn't have a lot of what we'll talk about tonight. It's really, in my opinion, kind of obsolete. This is the one that I think you will appreciate having, and that's the one I'm going to be talking about tonight. So what's new? Well, it's been updated for compatibility with the iPhone 16 and iOS updates that came out last fall. When the iPhone 16 came out, a lot of companies scrambled to update their apps to be compatible with the new iOS that came out with that phone. And this app was no different. Several things stopped working appropriately, or the way they were supposed to, but the app still worked, but there were just things broken. So those things have been updated and changed. We also now have the ability to save files in HEIC format. HEIC format is simply a contemporary format that it's more efficient than a JPEG file. It has more data in it, which is helpful when we go to process, but it's also a smaller size file, so it takes up less space in our storage. I love this format. When I'm not shooting raw or saving in raw, I will use HEIC, and now we can do that from this app. We also have some new filter adjustments. We've always been able to adjust the opacity of a filter to make it more intense or back it off a little bit, but now we can adjust the hue, the brightness, and the saturation of each of the filters. We can also create presets. Now, this is not unlike any other app that we use, like Lightroom or Snapseed, where you can create a list of a set of adjustments that you've made and then save them as a little package that you can click on to assign to a new image. Well, the nice thing about these presets now is that we can share them. So it's very easy if you create a look that you really like, you can share that via via emails, probably one of the best ways I've found, or AirDrop. You can share that with other people, and they can open it up in Distressed FX and apply your textures. Pretty cool. We also have some improvements to masking. Masking's been around since 2019, and the nice thing about masking, when you're laying textures over a camera or over a photo, a lot of times the texture will obscure the subject of the photo, and you need to kind of move it away or wipe it away. Well, that's what you can do with masking. You can actually wipe that top layer away, and you can do that in different opacities. So you can wipe just a little bit of it away, so that it still has the texture pattern, but maybe not so intense. The other thing that it does is it works really well with cameras that create a depth map. So a depth map would be something like the iPhone portrait mode camera. When you take a photo with that camera, and there are others that do this too now, but you take a photo with the portrait camera and it creates a depth map, and you can then change the focal point in the image to a face and let the background go blurry, that kind of thing. Well, Distressed FX works very well with that depth map, and it allows us to switch back and forth of those textures between the foreground and the background in that depth mapped image. So it's a great, works great in combination with portrait mode photos or other apps that create a depth map. So what's the same? Well, after what we just went through with Snapseed, many of us are still suffering a little PTSD from the update that came out in June, also with Snapseed, where they changed a zillion things and improved very little. They took a great app and they made it to where we could not find anything. They renamed, labeled things with different labels, and it's just been kind of a real inconvenience and a pain. What I love about this update is everything's the same. The app looks the same. It's the same intuitive interface. It's the same familiar operation. If you've used this app in the past, it looks exactly the way it used to look. We can still save PNG and JPEG files, but now we can also add to that HEIC. We still have an opacity adjustment, but we now also have some additional things that we can adjust. We still have those 9 texture packs. And we have a custom option for adding our own filters. So we use a lot of the filters that come with the app, but you can also create your own or purchase filters from another source and use those in the stylizing of your images too. And that's not changed. Masking hasn't really changed either. It still does all the things we're used to it doing, but it does a few other things as well, like the depth mapping compatibility that I was mentioning. So anyway, I think that's just really nice that it's still the app we love. It looks the same. It just is a little bit, it has more stuff. So textures, as mentioned, there are 19 different packs of filters, textures, gels that you can apply that come with the app. But you can also create your own textures and import those, or you can purchase commercial textures and use those. I do both of those things. I know a lot of clubs and competitions these days, they say, you can use textures, but you can't use them if they're not your own. So if it's something that you create yourself, it's legitimate and you can do it. So you can do that here. I also like to use commercial textures. There are several out there, but there's one that is a big favorite for me, and it's FLYPAPER Textures. Um, I know a lot of you have used these over the years. I use it almost every day. They have dozens of different collections of textures. They're reasonably priced, and they're just really good. If you use my code, you can get them for 15% off. And full disclosure, I'm a rep for them, so if you make a purchase, I do earn a commission. But I don't rep things that I don't use all the time, and this is just one of the best texture purchases you can make. Um, so let's take a look at just a few examples of what I've done with this app. Many of the images that I'm going to show you today were made with an iPhone 10 or earlier phone. So the point being, you don't need the latest iPhone um, to do really good work with this app. It will work with earlier phones. And sometimes, when we're doing textures and things like that, an image that may not be as sharp as it might be if you're using the iPhone 16 Pro Max, um, it can be very forgiving with if you're adding textures to it. It doesn't may not matter as much. Your composition matters more than the tack sharpness of your image. So let's go take a look here. This is a perfect example of one that I did several years ago. This was with probably an iPhone 10s Max. This is a giant catalpa tree in Crown Hill Cemetery here in Indianapolis, one of my favorite places to photograph. And I just love being able to showcase this tree very prominently and add these textures and tones to the background to create this image. This photograph, this is a perfect example of you don't have to travel to the far corners of the earth to make a great photo or a fun photo. I was actually going to the doctor. I parked my car in a business complex next to my doctor's office, and there was a retention pond outside my car. And I just got out and took a photograph of this retention pond with these reflecting trees and the moss growing on the surface. And I just loved that combination of reflection and reality. And then I used distressed FX textures excuse me, to just add a little bit of kind of grunge to it and give it um, a, a, a different look. This was made in June up in Madeline Island on Lake Superior. This is I think they call it Devil's Island. Just a strange, uh, landscape in the middle of the lake, and I used these textures and gels with distress to create this image. So this is a photograph that I'm going to bet that many of you have made already yourself, because it's in Yosemite Valley on the road that every tourist takes through the park. And so I, along with millions of other photographers, have made this photo. But I liked that I was able to take this and give it more of a timeless quality. It almost looks to me, it gives me a feeling of almost prehistoric. I use these textures from the app, and this is part of what I love about doing this. I just find this really fun to take an image that might be common or plain and make it something unique. I live in Indiana, and one of my favorite things is to drive country roads and photograph the barns here in the state. And this is one of my favorites in southern Indiana. I One of the things I like about the way Distressed F works, the masking feature allows us to wipe away the texture from the subject if we want to. So here's a case where this heavy texture was sort of interfering with not letting the subject come through. So I was able to wipe part of that away and allow the barn to come out in the texture. It's just a great technique, a great way to process our images. So those are just a few examples. We're going to work with some other images here now. Before I get my phone on the screen, though, I want to remind you there is another webinar on Thursday, The Creative Power of Lightroom Mobile. I sort of did a series of webinars here starting last week with Snapseed and then ending this Thursday while I'm home, and then I travel again. So if you're here and you can check this out, I think Lightroom Mobile is probably the best editor we have for our mobile devices. It's extraordinarily capable of doing so many things. It's almost as good as Lightroom Classic on the desktop, but it's mobile. You can take it anywhere. So we'll be going in and looking at that, what's new with that, and some workflows that I use for color, black and white, and even infrared. So if you can make it, great. And it's recorded. So even if you can't be there for the webinar, if you register, you'll get a link to the recording 2 days after. The other thing, another quick commercial, and then we'll go to the computer. I wanted to let you know I have 2 workshops coming up. That well, I've had cancellations. I had couples, one member of the couple got sick and they both had to cancel. So I have openings in Cape Cod Magic in September. This is a great workshop that I've done for several years now with Rachel Sokolowski, who is a 30-year resident of the Cape. So she knows where the good stuff is. And so we have that coming up September 21 to 25. And then I also have openings in my Calabria workshop, which is Southern Italy. We'll go to the Tyrrhenian coast and the Ionian coast. We'll spend several days in a medieval village. It's just a fabulous workshop, and that's coming up in October. So that's it. Thank you for indulging me in those little commercials. And what I'm going to do now is get my iPhone over here on the screen. There we go. And just open that up. And a minute ago, you all waved at me with that little hand icon. If you would, just do that again. Let me know you're seeing my iPhone on the screen and you can hear me okay. Would you wave to me and let me know? Okay, great. I see a lot of hands popping up. Thank you for that. As we go through this, if you have questions, you'll find in your Zoom tools, you'll see something called Q&A. If you would please put your questions in the Q&A. We have a lot of people online tonight, and I'm going to do my best to answer the questions that come up. But if I don't have time for that, I will save the Q&A and do my best to answer these questions. So it's best if you can answer them not anonymously, because if I don't know who you are, I can't respond. But if you will ask your questions there, and we'll do my best to get to those. Sorry, I just noticed one of the comments there. So, okay, so let's get started. I see some questions already coming up, and someone's asking, am I going to show you how to do FLYPAPER textures and so on? And absolutely, we will. So bear with me, and hopefully I'll answer your question before you even ask it. And if not, by all means, please share your question in the Q&A. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and swipe down on my phone. By the way, I'm using a 16 Pro Max. And I'm running iPhone 18, iOS 18.5. They came out with a new update to the iOS last night, but I don't like to update my iOS on the eve of a presentation because you never really know what could possibly go wrong. So I haven't updated yet, but 18.5 is what I'm using on a 16 Pro Max. And this will work on phones that go way back as long as they can run a current operating system. So here is the app. I just swiped up on my phone and I've got my tray of apps that I've recently used. Distressed FX is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and tap to open that. And let me just, I want you to see it without an image in it. So let me go back here. So this is what it looks like when you open it up and you haven't been working in it. Now, what you saw a minute ago was that was the image that I had been most recently working in. So I want to just quickly go around the interface here and review what these things do. I know this will be a review for many of you. The first thing is up here, the camera. If you want, this is where you go to add a new image to Distressed FX. You click on this, it takes you out to where you can find your images in your camera roll and open them up. This next icon here, it's an undo button, but it's not a traditional undo button. It doesn't undo the last thing you just did. it undoes everything you did since you may have flattened an image, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So it's not a let's go back one action. Um, so that's a little different. The other thing that's different about Distressed FX, most of our iPhone apps, you can take two fingers and kind of pinch out and zoom in on an image that way to see it. Well, with Distressed FX, you can't do that here. But you have this icon up here, these four arrows. If I tap on those four arrows, it allows me to zoom in on the image. I can inspect my work, make sure it's doing what I want it to do. So that's how you inspect an image in Distressed FX. This next icon here is information about Cheryl Tarrant and about the app. She talks a little bit about some of the things that inspired her to create it. Talks a little bit about her East Tennessee home. It's just a fun read, and you feel like you get to know her a little bit, which I think is really fun. Um, this icon, the gear icon here, is typically a settings icon, but there really aren't any settings in Snapseed except choosing a file format. So these two we've always had, the JPEG and a lossless PNG, and either one of those are fine. We now have the ability to, excuse me, to save as an HEIC file, which is what I prefer and what I save my images in here. Next to that is the share icon. Once you've got your image the way you want it, you would tap on the share icon, and then you can copy it. You can save it to your camera roll. You could open it in other apps. You could email it to someone. All of these different things. I typically save it to my camera roll, but there are other things you can do as well. Down below, and we're going to go into these in more detail in a second, but I'm just going to kind of go over them. This is an icon that allows you to blur the image a little bit. This is the masking tool. So this is where you would go to wipe away part of a texture over a subject. The birds. This is a topic. Many people are very amused by the birds. Some people hate them. Um, uh, my wife can't stand the birds. She doesn't like it when I use them, but sometimes I've seen them used really effective. So you can add birds to your images, and we'll take a look at that as well. The sliders over here are where you go. If you tap on the sliders, it opens up the editing tools. So on your image, you can brighten, you can adjust saturation right here, and you can adjust contrast over here. Down below, you have two sliders that lets you adjust the opacity of the textures you've chosen and a few other things. And we'll look at those in detail as well. So I'm going to close that up by clicking the X. Down below, you have two rows. Right now, we have nothing selected, so there's nothing applied to this stock image here. But if I slide across, I can select any of these. As I tap on them, it's going to apply the texture or the gel. Notice that as I do that, there's a word in here that this one says overlay. What that is a blend mode. And a blend mode is just instructions to the program on how to combine the gel with the image. So if you tap on any of these, you'll get the list. So that you have multiply, overlay, hard light, soft light, and screen. And you'll have, it's only 5 blend modes, but you'll have those for every one of the gels and textures that you have. And it's just a great way of getting the look that you want, because each of those is going to combine things a little differently. If I slide all the way to the right over here, you can see there, I don't know how many, 20 some odd different filters here. And at the very end is the switch to go to another pack. If I tap on that, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different packages of textures that I can choose from here. This is the original one, and this is what shows up in there right now, and I'm going to leave it there. But you could tap on any of these, and it would load these thumbnails into the app. So I'm going to click the X and back out of that. down below where the textures are, it's the same thing. As you tap on these, you can see it applying the texture. And again, you've got the blend mode displayed. And if I tap on blend mode, I can choose multiply, overlay, hard light, soft light, and screen. And depending on the image, these all you can always rely on multiply to be fairly dark and screen to be very bright, but in between, overlay, hard light, and soft light all behave a little differently depending on the lighting of the image. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, back up. As I scroll across here, you can see again there are a lot of different to choose from, different textures to choose from. When I get over to the end, there's a custom button. Well, this is where I was mentioning, and someone asked in the Q&A a minute ago about this. You can actually add textures that are outside of the Distressed FX app. You can either they could be textures that you created yourself, or they could be something like a FLYPAPER texture that you have that you've purchased. So we'll look at that again in a minute. But the one thing I wanted to point out, I'm going to go over to the switch pack and go to the list here. We've got 13 different collections here. But what I wanted to mention to you, watch what happens. If I choose the dramatic palette, for example, it just put all those dramatic palette items in here. But when I scroll to the very end of the list, notice custom isn't there anymore. Custom only appears if you're in the original texture pack. It's like an item in that pack. So when I go back to original and come down here, there it is again. So just it threw me when I was like, well, how come my custom button's gone? It was because you have to be in the original pack for that. All right, so that's kind of an overview of all this stuff. Let's go grab an image and see how this works. So I'm going to come up here to the camera. I'll tap on that. And whoops, let me back up. So tap on it. You can take a photo with this app as well. I rarely do. I usually use a camera like the native camera in the phone or one of the other camera apps that I favor rather than taking a photo here, but you can do it. What I'm going to do is choose a photo from my camera roll. So I'll tap on that and it takes me out to my library, my camera roll. These are all the images that I could pick from, and I could pick from right here if I wanted, or I could tap collections, and I've created an album just for us for today. And I'm going to go to that album and open this up. And let's grab this image right here. This is a foggy morning in the Smoky Mountains that I took several years ago, probably with a 11 Pro or 12 Pro Max, something like that. So this is like a little preview area that your image comes into before it gets moved into Distressed FX. In this area, you can rotate the image if you wanted. We don't really need to, but you could do that here. You also have the ability, you can crop it by moving, just dragging and cropping. You can also choose an aspect ratio right here. So if I come down and choose aspect ratio, I can use the original, or let's say I wanted to do a square, I could tap square here, and now there's my image, and I can take two fingers and I can compose and frame that image in the square. I could come back and choose something like 3:2, where again I can zoom in, and I'm going to be cutting out some of that. I'm going to maybe cut out some of that foreground and have more sky. It's a decision you get to make. Do you want more sky or more foreground? So I'm going to go with something like that. I could even zoom in a little bit and bring those trees more prominently into the frame, something like that. And I'll go ahead and click the check mark. And there's our image now in Distressed FX. So if I come down here, now I begin the process of figuring out, well, what do I want to do with this image? And I'll tell you right now, it's often very hard to figure out what you want to do. So I'm just going to start trying things, and you can just tap, see as I tap along here. I kind of like that. It brings out the orange and the fall colors a little bit. Um, when you find something you like, you might also realize, okay, this is the overlay blend mode. What happens if I change it to multiply? That's very dark, a little less dark. There's hard light, which is really emphasizing those colors. There's soft light, and then there's screen. So you've got all these different options here. I'm going to go with overlay for right now. Um, but the thing is, even what you see here is not the end of it. There's still more that you can adjust. So you can pick any of these items here, and then you can go down to the next level and do the same. I'm going to go and pick different textures down below. And you see here, I might switch that to multiply. I really like that. It's very dark right now, but I like this color. I like the sky the way it did. So I kind of like that. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now, again, I may never do this the same way twice. And you can always write down if you want to take notes on the names of these filters, because sometimes you just won't know what you did. And each time I do this, I find that I maybe go in a different direction creatively. So it's just all those options. Once you have your gel and your texture selected, well, now we can begin to process that a little bit, to edit that. So I'm going to come up here to my sliders and tap on the sliders. So now I have several things. I don't think I mentioned this before. This is for sharpening. So if I'm just going to move it across, you can see I can quickly over sharpen the image. I rarely use this, and when I do, I use it very, very little, but you do have it there. I have typically already processed the image in Snapseed or Lightroom or somewhere else before I bring it in here. So it isn't usually in need of any sharpening, but you have that option. Then you have a brightness slider over here. I can darken the image or brighten it up considerably. Down here is a saturation slider, and this is affecting the original image, not the textures or gels. So if I slide this to the left, I think the gel is just overpowering it, but you can actually almost turn your image to a black and white. Then over here you have contrast. I can bring the contrast way up and kind of make it very biting, or I can make it more ethereal by dropping it down. So that's just one place. And I find myself going back and forth because down here is a whole nother area of adjusting these textures and gels. The top line here, the top slider, is for that top row of textures, and this is for the bottom row of textures. Over here on the right, you can rotate each of the textures. So you can actually move from to 4 different positions. So right now, if we look at this top layer and I go to the circle here, watch what happens. Right now we're in position 1, but when I tap the circle, there's position 2, position 3, position 4, and back to position 1. So it's rotating that texture around. You can do the same thing with the one on the bottom. So there's position 1, there's position 2, pretty dramatic difference. There's position 3, position 4, and back to position 1. So you can see how this can be challenging to figure out which of those you want. You can find lots of right answers here. And it really depends on where you are in that moment and how you're feeling as you're processing the image. The other thing that you can do down here, this is an opacity slider. If I want to soften that effect, I can slide the opacity down, and it's changing that gel that I put on the top. On the bottom down here, I can do the same thing. I can back that off and have just as much as I want. So it's really a lot of control here, but I'm going to kind of leave those maybe something like that. But beyond that, I can tap right here, open this up, and now I just adjusted the opacity, but look, I can also go to hue, and these are the new things. These 3 things are new. I can go to hue and I can change the hue of the image. And I just went the whole continuum here. So you can see there's green, magenta, yellows, and oranges. So you can find that sweet spot for the image that you're working on. If I tap on this icon again, I could choose saturation. And now I am saturating that texture, not the image behind it. I'm saturating the texture. So you can again find that sweet spot that works for you. And then the final thing here is brightness. And there's no real order here. It's just this is how they're listed in there. And so I can darken the image. I can brighten that layer, not the image, rather the layer on top. And so something like that. I can come down to this and I can do the same thing. I can adjust the hue, um, choose something, I don't know, a little different. And these, if you notice, it starts and ends at the same place. So there's the starting point, and if I go all the way through, I end up at basically the same place. I kind of like that particular tone and color. So I'm going to go with that. Then I'm going to go to saturation, and I might saturate it a little bit. I could go a lot. That's way too much. I'm going to back it off, something like that. And then I can go to brightness, and I could darken it down a little bit. And this is very sensitive. You can see it's um, has quite an effect. So a little bit of adjustment here goes a long way. So something maybe like that. Um, so this is the way it works for every one of these adjustments and filters. You have all these different options that you can play around with until you get your image the way you like it. Once you have it, I'm going to go ahead and click the check mark here. And now I might begin to play with some other things here. Um, I could I could use the blur tool, and this isn't working as well as I I would like it to work. It's not blurring the external of the circle the way that it might. But I'm just pinching and zooming with two fingers to make the circle bigger or smaller. And then down here, I can increase the blur. But as you can see, there's very intense blur. I can back it off. It's really not, I would hope for to have a little bit more of this in focus. And I'm not sure it's working the way intended. I'm going to email Steve and ask him about that because I'd like to see that blur be outside that circle a little bit more. But you can see it gives you a really moody effect. So that's one of the things you can do. You can click check to accept it or X to throw it away. And in this case, I'm going to throw the blur away. The other thing that I can do, I'm going to skip over the masking tool for a second. The other thing I can do is go add some birds. So if I come out here to the birds, these are all the original birds that were in the original app. But if I look out here, I can also get, I don't know how many different packs of different kinds of birds. And you can even get a couple with trees. I'm going to go back to this original birds here. And I'll just pick, let's see, let's use these three right here. So now I've added three birds to the image. I don't know. I think that's really kind of romantic and kind of cool. And you can move those around. You can make them smaller. I want them to be as small as I can get them here, I think, because they're not, those are pretty big birds. I can't make them any smaller. That's as small as I can go. And then I can change the opacity. I can slide it down to where they disappear, or I can bring it up to where they're being seen like through the fog and kind of play with that. So again, this is just a fun thing you can do. I've seen some really beautiful things done with this. I've seen some real cheesy things done too, but they're both fun. And maybe you'll create something really cool with it. Something like that. And then I'll go ahead and hit the check mark. The next thing here, I want to go spend a little bit of time on the masking tool. So when I tap on masking, in fact, let me see here. I'm going to go back. I want to darken this image up quite a bit because I want to use it as an example. So let's see, I'm going here. and I want to take the brightness down. Okay, so I'm doing that so I can show you an example here. When we go into the masking tool, you have three things you can work with. You can work with the size of your brush, the amount of feathering you have on the edge of your brush. So if you have the feathering, that's a little feather icon, by the way. If you have the feathering all the way to the right here, that's the softest edge you can get. If you go back this way, that's the hardest edge you can get. This is an opacity slider. So if you move this all the way down, it's very uh, transparent. If you go all the way up, it's very opaque. So let me show you what I mean. Let's use a relatively big brush. We're going to use no feathering, and we're going to use the highest opacity. So watch, I'm going to take my finger and just drag over here. And what I've done, you can see there's a hard edge. It's um, very opaque. It's blocked out. The background is there, and it's very large. Now, if I were to come in and do that again, I'm going to move this size down considerably. I'm going to move the feathering all the way up, and I'm going to move the opacity down. So now when I take my finger and draw through this, see how it's far less, it's more transparent. It's letting the color through. It's also a very soft edge. So this is how you control these different, I'll do it again over here with a little wider brush. This is how you control these tools to mask your photo. Down below, if I want, I'm gonna click the trash can and just throw all those changes away. So I'll tap the trash can, and there we are back to where we were. So I'm going to get out of that. I want to go back here, and I want to brighten that image up. I don't really want it that looking like that. So how did I have it? Something like that. And I'm going to say okay to that. Come back in here. Now I'm back into masking. And what I want to do, I'm not sure. Let me think about this. Let me back out of here. What am I doing? Let me change this. There we go. Go in here. Just changing my opacity again a little bit. And there we go. Something like that. And I'm going to click the check. Now I'm going to go back into the masking tool. And let's say I want to remove that texture from the grassy areas down here somewhat. I don't want to remove it completely, but I want more of those grasses to show through. So I'm going to keep my feathering very high. Oh, and down here also, I'm going to make sure this is on a minus. You can either add to the image or subtract from the image. What I want to do is subtract. I want to wipe away from the texture that's there. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to wipe across the grasses down below. And so you can see how I brought those grasses back. If I made a mistake and oops, I didn't mean to do that, well, then I would come down here and I would change this to a plus. And now I can come up here and erase what I've done. I could actually increase my opacity a whole bunch so that it takes it away quickly. There we go. So this is kind of how you manage adding and subtracting things from the mask. And we'll do a couple more of those, but I'm going to go ahead and say okay to that. So now there's our image with our birds. We've taken a little bit of the texture away here. And we could do more of that. We could do more masking to manipulate that image if we wanted to. But one of the other things I wanted to show you here before we go on, um, well, let's go grab a different image first. So before I do that, let's save this. So I'm going to come up here to the share icon. I'm going to tap on the share icon and I want to save a copy of the image. So I'll save image and this pops up. It's an Instagram, share on Instagram thing. I wish it wasn't there because you can say share on Instagram. Maybe you would like that. But I don't do that directly from here. Anyway, now if I go and look in the camera roll, there is our image with our birds right there. Let's go back and grab a different image. So go to the camera again and choose a picture. And I'm going to go out to my album here. And let me see, which one do I want to get here? Well, let's get this one right here. This is out on the Outer Banks in North Carolina. I think Roanoke, I think. Anyway, really fun place. I'm going to be going back there for a workshop next April. I don't want to do any changes there. I don't need to crop or do anything. I'm going to go ahead and commit to that, select that. So there we are. And now I can begin to, I can go through these different options. Ooh, that's kind of cool. I mean, sometimes I stumble on things. It's like, wow, I didn't anticipate that, but I kind of like that. Again, I could go in and choose a different blend mode and see if I like that any better. I'm not sure I like anything better than that overview, that overlay. And then I can start looking at the different textures down here to add into that image. So now, again, I'm going to go to the sliders here and I'm going to start to do some editing. And I might want to back off that texture a little bit, bring it back to a sweet spot, maybe something like that. And the one on top, same thing, something like that. And then I could go in and do some of these other adjustments, saturate that a little bit, that blue, and so on. Once I get to that point, I'm going to go ahead and hit the X. And now if I look at this, I like the texture up here and on the pier, the foreground, but it doesn't work for me on the house. So I'm going to see if I can mask it away. So I'm going to go into the masking tool here. And once again, I'm going to bring my opacity down. I'm going to use a small brush because I want to try and get into this area here. And I'm going to have a very high feather. And so I'm going to come in and just begin to wipe over this area here. And I've kind of wiped some of that gritty texture off of the building. And that's all I need to do. I think that's fine. I'm going to be okay with that. And I'll commit to that. So the other thing here, this is what I wanted to show you here. Right now, we've got a layer and a texture. And I want to flatten this. By flattening this, what I mean is I'm going to take these two layers that we've already got. And if I hold my finger on the screen, I get the option to flatten the image. And this can't be undone. Once you do it, it's done. So we're locked into that. I'm going to flatten. So now notice as soon as I flattened the image, it cleared the choices that we made here. But now I can add another texture and gel on top of that if I want. So I can come down here to, I don't know, pick something that's kind of interesting. Or, I mean, there's, again, the possibilities are limitless. And I'll come down here and maybe do something like that. And I might do soft light. So something like that. So again, I'm just playing around here, but I can come down now and change my opacity on those. And now I've added an additional couple of layers. I can't change, I can mask these, but I can't change those original two that I did. And you can continue to build layers like this as you want. Um, and so here's, I wanted to show you here, if I take my slider down, this is affecting the color of the image itself. So I can turn this now into like a black and white kind of image. So now it's become something entirely different. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and, well, before I do that, one of the things that you can do now is save your work as a preset. So the preset icon is this heart right here. If I tap on the heart, there it opens up the presets here, and it shows me I have two in here. One I did a day ago, one I did earlier this morning. And if I wanted, I could apply those, but that's not what I want to do here. I want to add a new preset to the list. So I'm going to tap the plus sign. And now I encourage you to name these things that make sense to you, because I'm doing the webinar and the class. I'm just going to call this Rad 3 so I can keep, whoops, so I can keep track. Okay, so that's the name of my preset. I'm going to tap create. And now there is my preset. So if I were to bring a new image in and apply this preset, it would add these textures and gels and those things to it. But here's the fun thing. If I want to share it with someone, I can tap the share icon here in the preset that I want to share, tap on that, and I can send this as a text. I can airdrop it to someone nearby, or I can send an email. I've had the best luck doing airdrop. Email has been, it seems to work sometimes and not others, and I haven't figured out exactly why. But airdrop works and text works. And so let me show you what happens if someone sends you a text. I'm going to go out to my email here, and I'm going to search for a message that my wife sent me yesterday. And I think let's go to this one right here. And I am going to tap, this is the preset that she sent to me via email. Tap on it, and if I scroll down into my list, I have Distressed FX appearing down here. I can tap on Distressed FX, and it just imported that FX load one is the name of it. I don't know why I chose that, but anyway, there we go. And now down below here, there is the preset. So this is really, I think this is really neat. If you could create presets. I know some people who are marketing presets, or have their business doing that. And it's just great fun just to share them with other people if you create something you like. So that's how the presets work. So let's go back. The other thing I wanted to show you here, this is a leveling. This is going to undo the things that were done to the image since it's kind of an undo button since I flattened it. So let's go back. I'm going to tap on that icon, and it just took away all of those edits. Now, because these previous edits were flattened, I can't do that again. It only goes that far. Once they're flattened, they're locked in. So let's go back. I want to show you this again. And I'm going to grab that same image, bring it in. And this time, I don't know, I'll pick something kind of random here. And there's our image. And let's go down and, well, instead of that, whoops. Instead of this texture, let's add one of our own, or a flypaper texture, or something out from outside the app. So if I come down here, remember I have to be in the original textures in order to see the custom button. If I go out to my palette of textures and I don't choose the original, that button doesn't appear. So I have to be in the original texture. So I'll open that up again. Now down below, I have this custom button. I'll go ahead and tap custom, and I'm going to choose a photo. Now what I've done, I have FLYPAPER textures. I have several packages of FLYPAPER textures. They're simply files, and I've moved them to my phone, and I've put them in an album called FLYPAPER Textures. So when I want to add something into anything, in this case, Distressed FX, I'm going to go ahead and tap on FLYPAPER Textures. And now I can choose from any of the textures that appear here. Let's try this one. I don't know. We may not like it. Tap on that one. And there's our texture. And there's multiply, overlay, kind of like that, very aquamarine. There's hard light, soft light. I kind of like that as well. And then screen, which is very high key. So let's go back to soft light. And now when I go to my sliders here, I can change the opacity of my texture on the top, and I can change the opacity on my texture on the bottom. So I can change that opacity, and I can also work with the saturation and so on of my texture. So there's a case where I've added my own texture to the mix using the custom button here. It's a little funky. One of the things I wanted to point out, notice it says multiply here. And on any of these others, if you want to change from it to another blend mode, you tap the icon again. But here it's a little weird. If I tap this, it wants to open to go get another picture. So you have to let it open, and then behind that, it has the option to switch to the different blend modes. Just checking the time. So a couple more things, and then we'll wrap up here. But I wanted to show you also working with the images that have a depth map in them. So I'm going to go to collections. I'm going to go here to my folders here, and where are you? I'm going to grab this one right here. So this is a photograph. Again, this is a really old, like 110-year-old grave marker in Crown Hill Cemetery where I like to photograph. I'm going to go ahead and commit to that. Notice that it says up here, photo can be masked. It was a very quick message. Photo can be masked using a depth map. Let me show you here where that is. I've got a photograph of it somewhere right here. So this is what it says when you open up a photograph that has been created with a portrait editor like or a portrait mode camera like portrait mode in the iPhone. The photo can be masked using depth-based data in this photo. So it recognizes that this photograph was made with a portrait type camera that's recorded a depth map. So let's go back here to this. So once you come in, now I can do all the things I normally do. I'm going to come down here and choose something visible here that we can see good. Let's see, there's that. And I'll leave that on multiple blend mode. And then I might come down and do something that's pretty much maybe something like that or that. No, let's go with that. So again, these choices are, this is where you get to play and exercise your creative vision. So I'm going to choose those two. Now I'm going to come into my editor here, and I'm going to reduce the opacity a little bit. And excuse me, I might I can experiment with the hue, uh, maybe just a little, and I could experiment with saturation and brightness, something like that. And then I can come down here and do the same thing, pass it here. Anyway, make those adjustments. And the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and commit to that. Well, I could also come up and make some adjustments here. I can brighten this. I could slide this down and drop the color out of it. So now I've made it more of a almost a sepia tone. I've removed the color from the image. Or I could bring back just a tiny bit of color, or I could bring a lot of color. I really like it kind of almost black and white. And then over here, if I bring the contrast up, I'm really clarifying the image, but if I bring it down, I kind of like that softness that I get there. So now what I'm going to do, I'll click the X to get out of the editor. Now I'm going to go to the masking tool here. When I tap on it, um, before we were using um, the finger where we were painting away part of the image. In this case, because this image has a depth map, I'm going to use this icon, the 3D icon. So when I tap on it, look what's happening. It's telling me that there's the depth map, and it's got the texture on this part of the image. And if I use the slider here, I can intensify it. But watch what happens when I tap here. It's now put that texture in the background of the image and taken it off of the figure in the foreground. So let me see if I can go out of that. So now, let me see if I can make it more obvious. So I'm just sliding this slider back and forth. If I go all the way up, it puts the texture on the statue. But as I back it off, come on, it removes it from that a little bit. So now there we have, so by doing those adjustments that way, it separates the background from the subject of the image and lets you play with that texture back and forth. It's a really cool thing to do. Now, if I come back down here, I had changed this almost to black and white. If I bring that up and, well, you could still play with it. Drop that down a little bit. And so now you have something that looks like that. Let's see, I'm looking at my list here, what else I wanted to cover. I'm aware we're about at the end of our time. And I'm happy to answer questions that we have. Before we do that, let's do one more here. I'm going to just go out and get another image. And let's do this with one more of these depth mapped images, because this is kind of strange. I'll choose this image right here. This is another one from the cemetery. And I'll click the check mark and watch. It's going to give us that message again that there's a depth map here. So now I can come down and I can do, I don't know, let's do something different here. And let's go get a pack, and we'll do a dramatic one here. And ooh, that's kind of interesting with that kind of halo over her head. This one, I don't know if you can see, this one actually has some text in it, like longhand. You see it? Like script. And it looks like a couple of birds. I don't know. It's an unusual one. Let's see, what's this one do? That's kind of interesting too. I kind of like this one. Let's go back to this one. So now, again, I'll do my adjustments here, and I'm going to go to the masking tool again. And now I'll go up to the cube, and there's our image. And notice the texture is completely on the statue and not on the background. But watch. Now I've put the texture in the background and left the statue clean. And you can kind of slide this around until you get the sweet spot you want with that. Um, and so there is our image. And I'll go ahead and save it and go look at it in the camera roll. And there it is. So that's it. I mean, that's how this thing works. It's what I love about it. I will take these images. I'll take an image first, process it in Lightroom or Snapseed. Then I will process it here in Distressed FX and get it looking kind of the way I want. And then I'll often take it into something like Snapseed and do some other minor adjustments that I can do there to bring it out even further. So rarely do I ever use just one app to finish an image. I know many of you are the same way. You move from app to app in order to do the things that app is can specially do. Um, that's everything I had for you tonight. Let me take a look at the questions here and see what we've got. Hi, Michael. Long time no see. Yeah, you're right. We just saw each other in June. Um, let's see. I'm just looking here at the questions. Uh, let's see. That's the Q&A. Let me look at the chat. Maybe if you can put things in. Uh, click on share my image. My camera roll does not show up. Can you tell me how to fix this? When I click on share my image. Sandy, I'm going to need some more information about what you're asking. I don't quite understand. I'm sorry. When you share, I don't know what share my image is. You mean when you're trying to share a preset? Um, I'm not sure. If you can give me some more information, I'll try and answer that. Um, and yes, Mary Miller, the Distressed FX does work on the iPad. You can use it on an and you cannot use it on an Android phone. Um, but the iPad, it should work on the iPad. It's only for iOS devices. And Henrietta's asking, HEIC doesn't show in Distressed F Plus. Is that because I have an 8 Plus iPhone? Henrietta, it may very well be that. That's an old phone. I'm not sure which operating system you're running. If you have updated the latest version of Distressed FX that you can update from the App Store and it's not showing you that option, my guess is that you're right. It's because you have an old phone. 8 Plus is getting back a number of years. It's probably close to being obsolete for a lot of things. Um, Julie asks, after you work on an HEIC file, do you save it as a JPEG? No, that's the point here, Julie, when you can save it out as an HEIC file. And then if you do any other processing and other tools, I like that myself because you've got that more data. It's also a JPEG is an 8-bit file, whereas the HEIC is, I think, 11-bit file. I mean, it's some technical stuff that I don't fully understand, but it creates opportunities for better processing. And why do I use the HEIC format? Well, Deborah, as I was saying, it takes up less storage space. It has more data. Um, it's more efficient in terms of how it compresses the image. And I think ultimately the bottom line is I think it looks better and gives you more options when you're processing in other apps. Nancy's asking if you click on the eye icon in each of the packs, you will be able to see an example of each of the filters within that pack. Oh, okay, that's a good point. Let's go see what that looks like. So what Nancy's saying here is if I go out here and if I choose and click on the eyeball, okay, yeah, so it's showing examples of each of the things that are in that pack. That's a useful thing. Thanks for sharing that. I haven't done that in a while, and I'd forgotten that you could. Um, and Sandy, you are asking, can you use more than one overlay or texture? Well, for each image, you can apply one of each of the gels and the textures. But then if you flatten the image, if we went back here to this image, if right now I have one texture and below that one gel applied to this image. But if I hold my finger on the screen, I can flatten that image. And when I do, it clears those two options that I had selected. And now I can add two more. So let's just see, I don't know what I would do here, maybe something like that. There's one, and then that, and maybe not multiply. So now I've added two new textures to this, and I could come in here and change the opacity a little bit. So that's like kind of a vignette. And then this one, and I could brighten that or darken that a little. So yes, the answer to that is yes. And then I could flatten this again, and now I could add yet another texture to this. I've never done this. I mean, I haven't done this many. I don't know what it'll do. Um, but there, now we've added a little bit more vignetting, and I could add another, oh, that's kind of wild, another texture. Um, and now if I go in here and drop my opacity on that, and my opacity there on the top one. So now I've just added 6 textures to this one image. So you can kind of keep going. But you can only go back, like I could if I go back right now on this little arrow icon here, watch what happens. It says, do you wish to reset all the unflattened changes? Well, the only unflattened changes are the last two things I added. So I'm going to say, yep, undo that. So it took away those last two textures that I added. Mark Larson, best advice for remembering what steps you used. Oh boy, take notes. There's really no, I don't have a good suggestion for that. There's so many different variables. If you create something you really, really like, yeah, write down which textures and filters you used, and you can go back to them. That's the only thing I can think of. Um, will the masking feature work with the blur tool? That's a really good question. I don't know. Let's see if we were to blur this. And increase the blur and commit to that and go to here, and I'm going to subtract, and I don't see that it doesn't. I'm moving my finger around this area, and it's not allowing me to do that. So no, I don't believe it does work with the blur tool. That'd be cool if it did. I think Steve intended for this blur tool to, excuse me, to have a greater effect than it's having. And so I think I'm going to ask him about that and see what he says. So after you edit, can you see a before and after view? Unfortunately, no, there's not really a before and after option to look at it like you can in Snapseed or other apps, or you hold your finger down on the screen and see before and after. That would be nice. Are the changes made non-destructively so the original is saved as taken? Um, yes, so they are because when I'll go ahead and save this, it's actually when you go to the camera roll, it saved a copy of the image here at the end of my camera roll. If I go back into my album where that original was, um, forget which image I was looking at. That was that one. Okay, so um, there's the original image. So yes, it's saving a copy. When you save it out after working on it and making changes to it, saves it as a copy. Do you take, can you take import a distressed F image into Lightroom? Um, yes, you can. So let's just do that right now. If I go out here, go back here and go to, well, when you say Lightroom, I'm doing Lightroom mobile because I'm on my phone, but you could, it's a file. It's an HEIC file. So if I go here to, there's the image and I'll open it in Lightroom and give it a second to load. It's still loading. It's not ready yet. It's coming. There we go. And there's the image in Lightroom. And now you can see it came in as a JPEG. It did not come in as an HEIC file because, but now you can edit in Lightroom using the great tools there. And I'll be going over some of those on Thursday in the webinar on Thursday. And Judy's asking, is the brush your finger? What are you using as a brush, small or large, either way? Judy, I've used styluses before with the iPhone, and I find that my finger does just as good as a stylus. Now, if you're using an iPad, which I don't very often, but you can get electronic pencils that can give you some better accuracy. Um, I've not used one of those with Distressed FX, but they work with Snapseed and some other things. So that would be an option. But I've used the styluses that I can get, and I don't find that they help me that much. Um, Judy MacArthur's asking, will the preset include what you did before you flattened the image? Yes, I believe so. Again, I'd have to double check that to test it, but yes. So like right now, we've got several, whoops, let's go to Snapseed. Um, so here we go. We've got several layers here. So if I were to go here and do, and this is, let's call this layers. So I know what it is. And now let's go grab another photo and let's just grab this one. Let's grab something else, I guess. Let's grab this photo and accept it. And then I'm going to apply layers. Okay, come on. That's weird. It didn't, I'm doing something wrong. I don't know what, but let's see. Go. Layers. Okay, it did that one, did that one. You know, that's funny. Now that you asked that question, Judy, it appears that the um, preset that I created that was done with multiple flattened layers didn't take. So I've never noticed that before. I've never tried that before. These others that we've done, I can apply, and it's applying all of them. But this one on top that we just did that has compressed layers in it didn't work. So that's a good point. Um, what's the difference between gels and textures, and how do you know when you are in one? Well, Linda, I don't really know the difference. I call them gels and textures. The gels seem to have, um, there's really no difference. They're just textures. Um, these seem to be kind of, I don't know, smoother. Some of them still have what I'd call texture in them. There's really no difference. They're just categories of textures. The only way you know if you're in one, I mean, the top row, you can see it's applied there. The bottom row, um, there's really, other than when you come back into the editor here, the top row is affecting that top row of textures, and the bottom row is affecting the bottom row. That's really the only way that I'm aware. Um, and how do I import textures? Well, Anita, I went through that earlier. Maybe you weren't on when I did that, but basically, if you go, let's see, you're gonna if someone sends you a texture, I did this. I showed you where I had a texture from my wife from her phone. She sent me an email with a texture. I opened that email. Let's just go do it again really quickly here. Um, there's the email. There's the texture that I want. I tap on the texture in the email, and down here in the tray, I find distressed FX, and I tap to open it, and there it's been imported. And actually, there was already one in there called um, FX load, and this gave except it made another name for it here. Um, so now there it is in the list. So that's how you do it. You can also send those via AirDrop, and again, you simply click on it, and it will open Distressed FX and allow you to go in there and add it. Um, how did you get the flypaper textures onto the phone? Sandra, they're simply files. So there are a couple ways to do that. You can use AirDrop. You can go uh, if you get the package in your email on your big computer, you can go and open those and select them and airdrop them to your phone. If you have a PC, you're working or an iPhone and an Apple Mac, you're working in an iOS environment, you can use something called image capture. You plug your phone into your computer, open image capture, and it will read your phone like a hard drive, and you can find the images that you want to move to your phone. So a couple different ways to do that. I don't really have time to go into all the details of it today, but airdropping works perfectly well. And then once they're in your camera roll, what I've done, they're in my camera roll, and then I just move them I create an album and add them to that album on the phone. Um, Michael Broomfeld is asking, I assume that saving presets would not include any masking because those mask shapes would not be useful on another image. I think that's correct, Michael, because the masking is specific to an image. I can't say I've actually checked to make sure, but I think I think that's correct. And George Gregor, um, how do you name your distressed picture in Lightroom? For example, would you put them into a collection? Um, Well, you could put them into a collection. I mean, I work mostly with Lightroom Mobile on my phone, and if I group images by there are some already created Lightroom categories that you can sort by to bring things up by date, or I don't even remember what all the categories are. So I don't rename a file in Lightroom necessarily in Lightroom Mobile. Um, but there's nothing says you couldn't. I'm not sure I've answered your question, Gregor, but I hope so. And Deirdre says, is there a way to flip between your original image and its current state, like pressing and holding on a picture in the Photos app? To see the like a before and after, no, there's not that I'm aware of in Distressed FX. And Claudia is asking, can you create a multiple exposure image by opening a second photo? Yes. So in fact, you could, if you are in Distressed FX here, and let's just say, um, if we come over here and add, this is not going to look good because I'm not prepared to combine things, but what I'm doing, I'm just going to go to the custom option where I can add a texture or something else. You can add a photo as well. So I'll go and get, well, drag draw. I'll go and tap there. I'll choose a picture and let me just pick something. I don't even know. It's like I said, this is going to be very weird. I'll just pick her. And now I can overlay her on that image. So now um, I've got her on top of the image. The thing about this is not the best tool to do this with because you don't have any option to size or uh, manipulate the image like you might in another tool. A better tool for doing a composition, a composite like this might be Snapseed. Um, uh, Probably, or maybe or Image Blender. Those are two that I would recommend because there you can then size the images. You can do different things with them that you can't really do. Oh, I don't know. You can't really do in um, Distress FX. Um, and there's a question: do the extra collections of overlays and textures cost money? Um, I don't know who's asking this question, but no, if you get the $19 app, it comes with all these things in it. There are 19 different packs. Um, they may at some time create some new packs, and if they do, that might be an in-app purchase. But it does say when you go out to the App Store and you get this app and for 19.99, it says there are in-app purchases, but there are not, not at this time. Everything's included in that $19 purchase. Um, how did you learn all the various? Is there an instruction manual to learn from? I haven't seen anything. I mean, I've used the app myself, trial and error, a lot of it. There's really nothing out there that you could Google things and see if you could find some other uh, editor that's photographer who's done something, but I don't know of anything. And then uh, Tizzle is asking, do you need an iPhone 16 to get a depth map? No, the portrait mode came out with the 7 Plus. So the portrait editor has been around for a long time, and you can do that with earlier phones. In fact, just to be sure here, let me show you. Um, I go here. This image right here. Oh, that was with a 12 Pro Max. I thought it was much earlier. Let's see what this one is. That's also 12 Pro. Um, oh, I don't have anything. Yeah, the depth map concept has been around since the 7 Plus. It's just gotten more sophisticated with each subsequent version. Um, Susan is asking, many times I import photos taken with my mirrorless camera into iPad to edit with apps. Does the app work the same way with these images? Um, Susan, it should. The only restriction or the challenge that I might think is that if the file size is much larger. Now today, I mean, I'm getting 48 megapixel um, files that are, gosh, I don't know, 60 megabytes. And they work in this tool. I don't see any reason that you couldn't. So, I mean, I would try it and see, but I don't see why it wouldn't work. Um, And no, Michael, there's really no before and after. I wish there was, but there isn't. And Carol is asking, can you see the original image alongside adjusted original? No, unfortunately not. Um, is there a place in the app where each symbol is explained? You're doing an excellent job with this, but it would be great to be able to find it in the app. Thanks for an excellent webinar. Thank you. Karen, I'm not aware of anything like that. There's really, if you look at the app itself, it's pretty bare bones in terms of what's what's available. Again, I would Google and see if there's been anyone who has done that and created a tool, but I'm not aware of anything. Maybe I should try and do one. I don't know. Um, File size. Sorry, Mark, I don't know what FZ plus means. Um, but if we go look at some of these that we just saved, um, that's really small. I don't know why that one is so small, but these others, like, um, that's small too. What did I do to those? A lot of these aren't that small. There's 5 megapixel. This one is 2. So some of these are very small. I'm surprised because not all of them are. Um, The other, if you do have a small file, something that I've been doing a lot these days, usually they're around 10 megapixels. What I've been using, there is now a Topaz product called Gigapixel AI for the iPhone, and it's really quite remarkable. It does a wonderful job of up-resing images, and I use it quite frequently um, if I have an image that um, is really small. A lot of the Painterly apps that I use, like oh gosh, I don't know, AI Gahaku, they produce files that are less than a megapixel. They're really small, but you can run them through Gigapixel AI and end up with a 16 megapixel image that looks great. So that is an option for us if we have a small file. Hi, Lynette. How do I get my saved presets once I've saved them? Well, so if you're in the app and you're going to go to the sliders right here, and there's a heart. Tap the heart, and here are the presets that you can apply to any image, but you can also delete them with the trash can if you don't want them anymore, or you can tap on the share icon and you can save them or send them rather to someone else. I gave the example of the one that my wife sent me via email, and I opened the email, clicked on it, and I was able to open it in Distressed FX. I hope I've answered your question. I think I have, but let me know if not. You know where to find me. Um, Colleen, oh, thank you so much, Colleen. Appreciate that compliment. Yoni, hi. When and why would someone choose to save as a PNG? It's another file format. It's a lossless file format, which means it doesn't necessarily degrade over time. It's just another option that we have. Um, a JPEG is a lossy file, so it does technically degrade over time. I've used JPEG most of the time until we got RAW and HEIC, and they're still really good formats. So it's just an option that we have. Um, thanks, Craig. Thanks for being here. Um, Mary, how do you load the FLYPAPER textures into Distressed FX Plus? Well, so I think we covered that, Mary. You use the custom option, and if we go back here, um, down here, you tap on the custom, choose a picture. I have my FLYPAPER textures in an album, and I just go out here and choose whichever one I want and select it, and then I can choose an overlay for it, and it puts it right in. So it's pretty straightforward. Um, and hi, by the way, I haven't seen you in years. It seems like a long time. Um, okay, let's see. Donna is asking, no questions. Huge thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Um, and Lynn, I missed the Snapseed webinar. Is there any way I can get a recording? Send me an email and I'll see what I can do. I don't have it set up to make it available, but let me send me a note and we'll figure something out. Um, Sandy may have to adjust her permission in the system settings. I'm not sure what he's responding to. Why is the eye icon in masking? What is the eye icon in masking? Let's see. I'm in masking right now, and I don't see an eye icon. I'm not sure what you're referring to. We have a size icon, we have a feather icon, we have an opacity icon, and then down here a trash can and our whether we're going to brush or use a 3D. So I'm not sure. Um, I'm not sure what you're referring to, Patty. If you can give me more information, I'll try and answer your question. Susan is asking, is there a way to toggle a before and after? No, we don't have a way. Um, can you show how you use your preset? Well, I think we've covered that, Sandy. You you go to the heart, you slide down and find the preset you want, you tap on it, and it applies it to your image, and then you can make adjustments to it, so on. Um, Sandy's asking when the image is done and you want to save it to the camera roll. I don't have camera roll after you press the icon that's a box with an arrow in it. Well, if I go to save it, this is what you see. Um, and no, it doesn't say specifically camera roll, but if you choose save an image, that's where it will save it to. It will save it to the camera roll. Sorry, I didn't say that. It is weird. It doesn't specify, but that's where it's going to go. Let's see. And Patrice, given that the various tools don't tell you what they are until you've figured them out through trial and error, is there any written info that comes with this app? No, unfortunately, not that I'm aware of. That would be nice. Um, and Gene, I think so. I don't use Photoshop very often, and I'm not sure what it does with HEIC files. I'd have to try and see. If it doesn't open them, it may convert them to JPEGs. I believe that's what Lightroom does, so it may do the same thing. Hi, Teresa. Would it help to save the two textures to your camera roll before you flatten each time? Well, yeah, you can save. So the question is, if you're in Distressed FX, and you're doing you're flattening and then adding more layers, you can save along the way anytime, um, because you can't once you flatten it, it's baked in and you can't really make any edits to it. So um, I think if you think you wanted to go back to an image that before you added another texture, another layer to it, then yeah, I would save in between each before I flattened anything. I would just save it and then go flatten and save it again and flatten and save it again. And then you might go back to one of those versions that you like because there's no way to go back in Distressed FX. It's just not that sophisticated. Um, but what not a question, what can help? Screen stuff. So Karen is answering the question that we got about how do you remember what you've done? And she's suggesting screenshots. That's a great idea. The screenshots will, have those uh, the names of the textures and things that you've used. So that's another option that we have for trying to remember what we've done. Um, do you have time to put a tree behind the statue and then mask out the part of the tree that is in front of the statue? Um, I, I'm going to say no because we're already past 90 minutes, Nancy. If you want to send me an email or something, I'll play with it and we can play together. But I'm going to try and get through the rest of these questions and uh, and see what we can do. Um, how do you access the X and check mark? The X and check mark. Well, um, I think the X and check mark appear when you're in the mask, and if you want to save the mask that you've just done, like I'll do a mask right there, you would hit the check mark to save it, the X to not save it. So if I hit the X, it doesn't save the change. I think that's what you're asking, anonymous. Um, Hi, Linda. If updates are made, how do you implement or update my current version? I'm so sorry, Linda. I don't understand your question. If you want to send me some clarifying comments in email, I'll see if I can answer it, but I don't understand it the way it's written there. Gabrielle's asking, how do you adjust the camera controls of F number exposure time? Well, Gabrielle, that's a whole nother topic I'm not going to go into right now. I do have some other videos and things on using the iPhone camera, and basically, I don't mess around with f-stops and ISO most of the time on the iPhone. All of that is kind of smoke and mirrors. There is no aperture on the iPhone, so there's no f-stop control. Everything is simulated with computational photography, so it's not like a big camera in that respect. Um, but again, that's kind of off topic. And if you want to send me a note, an email, we can follow up. And Teresa, I don't think you saved the multiple layers, just applied the new layers. Okay, maybe. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure what you're referring to there, but uh, saved multiple layers. Well, so I think that's referring to when I tried to, what were we trying to do? We were trying to save a preset that had multiple layers in it and it didn't work. So maybe I made a mistake, Teresa. I'm not sure if that's what you're referring to. Maybe. Carol's asking if you think like a painter, the top row is the underpainting or ground, and the bottom row is the brush stroke or glazing on the painting. Carol, that's a really helpful way to think about it. I'm not a painter, and it wouldn't have occurred to me to think of it that way. But thank you for sharing that. And okay, Lynette, I'm glad you found your the answer to your question. Um, Hi, Sharon. Just want to thank you. Oh, thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you in Chicago in a couple weeks for the Out of Chicago webinar. Um, Nancy Loving, if you load the app on your iPad, will it run on your phone too with no extra cost? Uh, That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. You may have to install it on both. I don't know, Nancy. I don't have it on an iPad, so I don't know the answer to that. I know some apps, this one I don't think does, but some apps actually have to have a iPad version to function properly on the iPad. And some of them are exactly the same as the iPhone. So I think this one is that way. Um, I think you can purchase it and then use it on both devices, but I am not 100% certain. Um, and Anita, uh, thanks, Anita. Really appreciate your comment. Carol, thank you very much. And yes, this is recorded, Betty. I'm going to send an email to everyone. It will come from Zoom within 2 days, and it will have a link to the recording and a copy of my slides. Thanks, Dennis. Thanks for being here. Um, And Joe is asking, how do you know what version of FX you have? Actually, I'm not sure there's anything in settings that you can look at that will tell you that. the best thing to do, I would think, would be to go to the App Store, look up Distressed FX Plus, and see if it is has an open or an update button on it. If it's an update button, you're not in the current version. If it's an open button, you are. I don't know of any way to look here in the app and find the version number. If someone knows, please share, but I don't. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for being here. Uh, glad we were able to clarify some things. Thanks, Martin. Thanks for being here. Mahalo, Lynette. Thank you. I Okay, I'm going to skip that one. I don't understand. Have you used the screen mode to overlay to make a fog layer effect, perhaps just for a fog pocket rather than, yeah, hi, Judy. Oh, hi. Yeah, there's so many different ways you can use these. And again, it's a combination of masking and choosing the blend modes to experiment to get the look you want. I don't have a specific recipe for that, but thanks for being here. Marzana, hello. The eye icon in masking is when you click on hand and you have three choices. It looks like shows before and after masking. Marzana, I'm so sorry. I'm not understanding the question. If you want to send me a note and ask me, I'm happy to follow up, but I can't think of anything. I can't understand what you're asking. Um, I think what I think I'm going to call it here. We're close to the end. Let's see. We've had still have quite a few people here though, so let's go ahead. Um, Screen model. Once you purchase it, I have it on both phone and iPad. Oh, thanks for sharing, Judy. So that answers that question that came up a minute ago. Sandra's said the same thing. So great. Good to know. Nancy Loving, thank you for concise. Thank you very much, Nancy. I appreciate your comment. Um, Thanks, Deb. Thanks for being here. Thank you guys. Thanks for all the great comments. Thanks, Sharon. Um, the app tells you if it's just FX or if it's FX Plus. Yeah, it's FX Plus is the one you want um, in the App Store. And there's a link in the slides that I send you. There's a link directly to it. How long will we have the use of the link that you send us? Claire, I'm not going to take it down. It'll be there as long as it's relevant. If something changes and it's not current anymore, I'll take it down, but it's not going anywhere. So you have lots of time. Yeah, that's right, Sharon. The FX Plus is designated in the title. Hi, Bob. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it. Once you purchase StressFX Plus for your iPhone, you can open the app on your iPad too. Thank you, Nancy, for sharing that. And Joe, the FX instead of FX Plus is an older app. It's not got many features. I don't recommend it. I think you want the FX Plus. Someone asked about the eye icon that is in the masking when you click on the hand. Okay, I'm glad you figured it out, Marcena. Thank you. Thanks, Mary. I'll see you in the Lightroom webinar on Thursday. Thanks, everyone. I think that's all the questions. Hopefully, I've answered yours. If I didn't, send me an email and we'll follow up online. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. Watch for an email from Zoom in the next 48 hours, and you'll have a link to the recording. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to shoot me an email. We'll welcome those. So thanks, everyone. Talk to you soon. Thanks for being here.